Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now today we're doing the last offering from that kinky karaoke singer and part-time brewer, Sam Smith. And we're doing the IPA. Now, people are probably getting sick of the Sam Smith jokes, but if you look at the picture up there, there's a picture of that part-time brewer and kinky karaoke singer enjoying a pint. And if you look in this picture up here, you'll see him enjoying... Never mind. Anyway, so we're doing the Pale Ale today, which has been recommended to me as being a lot nicer than the last Pale Ale that we tried, which was the India Pale Ale from Shepherd Neame Brewery, which was okay but nothing special. So yes, so today we're doing the Pale Ale again. It was part of the kind of tasting pack. So it's 355ml and it's 5%. So there you go. Woohoo, woohoo. And yeah, let's give it a crack. Let's see what it's like. God, try to get the bloody thing open with this stupid bloody bottle opener. So what's been happening is, since I last actually recorded a video, because a lot of the videos I've been putting out have already been pre-recorded, and the last video I actually recorded, I attended the Peterborough Beer Festival, which, as a night out with good company, was actually very enjoyable and good fun. The problem was, though, is that if you look on the basis as you're at a beer festival and the person that was actually drunk was the person in the gin. Nobody on the actual who was drinking beer in the group was actually drunk, because it suffered the same as a lot of beer festivals, whereas they just don't look after the beer, and it's the environment of they're all stacked up there, the temperatures fluctuating back and forward because they're held in tents and racks and everything else. And to be totally honest, a lot of the beer that we tried was that, to put it nicely, in a good way, it wasn't in its prime, and some were just bloody awful. And when you kind of highlighted this to them, well, their attitude was basically go and fuck yourself. But that's camera for you, because it was all basically run by camera. So as the cases of their attitude was, as the cases of they're there to kind of promote the saviour of real ale and craft beer and everything else, but then they're just basically selling high volumes of piss poor beer just because they're not looking after it properly. They don't give a shit. In fact, the biggest claim to fame was that the bar was over 100 metres long, which is great, that type of stuff, but I don't see the point, and that's what puts me off going to a lot of beer festivals, and that's why I didn't film. I was going to film and I took the camera along, and my first beer was like, maybe it's just a bad one. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, and had a second one, and I thought, right, I can stay in the bag, it's not coming out, because no, and it just kind of went on with that, And again, it's nothing to do, and I'm not going to review people's beers that aren't basically being kind of served in prime condition, because that's not fair. I mean, that's one of the big problems if you go and kind of review beers in pubs and that type of stuff, is then, of course, obviously, you've got the establishment's kind of attitude towards looking after the beer and things like that, and the experience of their staff. Then it's a case as though you could actually be, reviewing what normally is a good beer, but it's been spoiled because the establishment's kind of made an arse of it. And this is the problem with beer festivals. Most beer festivals I've went to, the beers, even beers that I know well and that are good beers and everything else, and then you're tasting it in these type of environments, you're thinking, you're not doing it justice. You really aren't. And that's one of the things that annoys me with camera now. It's so kind of commercialised, and it's all about making money. And they don't give a shit. And see with these volunteers, these member volunteers that are there telling you, I could have smashed the bloody glass over them multiple fucking times with their attitude when you're telling them, that beer's buggered. It's supposed to taste like that. How the fuck would you know? Because we're drinking it and you're not. So shut the fuck up, you know what I mean? But no refunds, you know? I'm going to give you a pint of fucking piss, but hey, you keep drinking it, because, hey, we're camera, we don't give a shit, you know? Even though they're supposed to be claiming to basically preserving traditional beer, ales, and craft beer. Yeah, way to fuck. Arseholes, lying Anyway, I've poured it. I'm just going to get kick out right off the rant there, but yeah. I think Cameron's started off with good intentions, but right now Cameron's probably doing more damage to the beer industry than fucking good, in my view. And if anybody wants to argue that fact, feel free, chuck it in the comments and I'll fucking roast you. Not a problem. Anyway, for people in the podcast, actually I don't know why I'm doing it, because I'm so far behind with putting up episodes in the fucking podcast, they might never see it. Trust me, in the podcast, they will never see it. But yes, it's a nice kind of chestnutty kind of brown colour. Not really much of a head. And I've got a little glass because it's a little bottle. But again, that's not down to them. It's down to me buying the tasting pack. Smell wise. You're getting some nutty aromas. You're getting some malt. But something else I'm getting. It's a bit strange. It's slightly... It's going to sound a bit strange, but it smells slightly gravy-like. There's a smell there that I can't really quite identify, and the closest I can get right now is kind of gravy-like. But it's not gravy, so it's kind of strange. No, I can't really identify what that is. But it just gives me slightly kind of Bovril kind of esque kind of hints of gravy. Which, of course, it's not, unless they're putting the bistro in it, you know, which I doubt, you know what I mean? But you never know, but yeah, bit of a strange one, but I'm just not identifying it correctly. So, let's see what it tastes like. Hopefully not like Bovril. Although I do like a Bovril, but not with a head on it. There is a kind of meatiness to it. There is a kind of bitterness to it that just kind of, you know, people talk about chocolatey bitterness and all this type of stuff, but there's a slightly kind of meatish kind of bitterness to it. It's quite a bit of body there, but kind of bouillon-esque in some ways. And I think that's actually down to the richness of the malt that's giving you that slight impression. It doesn't actually taste of mead or Bovril, but some of the richness that's there in there is your taste buds slightly associate it with kind of things that are similar, you know, a kind of rich, thick kind of Bovril or gravy type thing, and it's like that. And but there's a little bit of bitterness there at the end. What I would say, if we're comparing this one to the last pale ale that we did from Shepherd Neame, which was the India Pale Ale, this is less alcohol, but is more complex flavours. Complex enough that Graham's basically turned around and saying, hey, it's like Bovril. You know. But yeah, but there is more complex flavours, and that was the biggest problem that I felt, that for a 6.1% with the Shepherd Neame, not the bloody fly, can't get dirty. With the Shepherd Neame one, it was just very kind of bland, very kind of bulk standard, and just nothing really stand out at all. I mean, the body was okay, the flavour intensity was okay, but it was just kind of like I said, base flavours. There was nothing there to kind of make it stand out or in that. It was like almost like a base ale, for tasting purposes. But yeah, just very strange. Where this one, yeah, there's a bit more to it. That's actually very nice, actually. I like the little bit of kind of, it just gets to the back of the mouth and you get this little bit of sweetness there. And then it just tilts over into the kind of bitterness in the back of the mouth. But just at the back of the mid-tongue, you just get this little kind of crescendo of sweetness just before it goes bitter on you. And that's actually really quite nice. Strangely enough, this is the beer that I left till last out of the tasting things because of pale ale. And the problem is we associate now anything with pale ale, IPA, AP, anything with pale ale in it. You start to kind of start associating it with the craft fraternity kind of products. And you just know it's going to be hopped off its tits. Some of it's always going to be undrinkable, or it's just going to be too heavy in the citrus, and it's going to be kind of piney tones at the end. That's going to especially annoy me. And this is one of the things. So with the craft beer fraternity, that they think that they're basically doing wonderful things with beers. Well, what they've managed to do in the UK, I can't say the same in America or Europe, but I would say in the UK, especially towards kind of more traditional beer drinkers, is you've put us off pale ales in a lot of ways, because we look at pale ales a lot of times thinking, oh, because of all these IPAs that you fire out, and APAs, and New England IPAs, and oh Jesus, and West Coast and East Coast, and oh my God, and all this type of stuff. And you're thinking, seriously? And sometimes you pour it out and you're looking, it's almost the same colour as orange juice, and you're thinking, yep, didn't see where this is going. And it's not going to taste of the nice stuff of oranges. There's going to be the stuff that doesn't go into the old Tropicana carton. So yeah, and that's one of the big problems, and I was guilty of that, because when I seen the pale ale, I'm thinking, well, it could be a more traditional one, but you never know. And remember, they do fruit kind of beers and everything, fruit-flavoured beers and everything else, and I'm thinking, I'll leave that to the end, just in case it is more of a kind of citrus or piney-based kind of pale ale. But it's not. It's more of a traditional with good amounts of malt, nice more kind of traditional hop flavours, and a good traditional bitterness at the end, with a nice level of sweetness. And that's one of your biggest problems, and I think that's one of the big issues with the craft beer fraternity, and why quite a lot of the breweries are struggling, is because you've isolated more traditional beer drinkers away from your products by basically, well, we started off as a new craft brewery, and we made an IPA, and that went quite well. And then what we did was we made another IPA. We put it in another different gaudy coloured can, and then we thought, right, what we'll do is, for our third beer, we'll do something different, and we'll do an APA, an American pale ale. And it goes on like that, and you're basically, you scan down some of these websites, and it's like, there we go. So that's 10 pale ales. Oh, and what did they do? Oh, they did a chocolate porter, and they added fucking Nescafe coffee, and God knows what other shit, maybe a bit of vanilla and that type of stuff, a bit of vanilla extract, because obviously Mum wasn't baking that fucking week, so she was there. They was just sitting in the cupboard doing nothing, all that kind of bollocks. You're thinking, yeah, no wonder why we don't fucking drink your products, because at the end of the day, you're so fucking one-dimensional. You class yourself as progressive, but all you can do is make fucking, one or two fucking types of beer, and, and even then, you've got maybe about 6 or 7 bloody pale ales, in your product range, and you still can't make a decent one, you're thinking. And this is the problem. You've actually, pale ale to a lot of traditional beer drinkers is a dirty word, because we don't see them so much now as in the traditional sense, which is a very nice beer. We see it in the more kind of modern connotations of just being a bottle of piss. And you haven't helped yourselves, because if you'd got traditional beer drinkers on site, if you made more of a product range that appealed to traditional beer drinkers as well as more kind of the craft beer fraternity, then you'd probably sell more products and you wouldn't be going through such a hard time nowadays, since the kind of bubbles burst. And yeah, you're getting your comeuppance, but you've also kind of slightly spoiled the pale ale term in traditional sense, because again, a lot of times we look at it more as a kind of more modern kind of recipes, as we call it, rather than the more traditional ones. But let's break down these flavours and see what they're like. Yeah. What I would say, first of all, it's bordering on, it's quite a rich beer, but it's bordering on that it's still sessionable, but just right on that borderline, because there is such a good level of body and everything else to it, that what I would say is it's almost losing that kind of sessionability, almost, but just right on the border, and they've just caught it just right. So you're getting the slightly best of both worlds. It's still quite sessionable, but you've still got a good level of complex flavour and richness to it, which is nice, and you can tell that by the colour as well, you see, which is nice to see. But yeah, first thing you do, front of the mouth, you're getting some nice, basically, malt flavours there, nice malt tones, and you are getting slightly more of the darker stuff as well, so you're getting a bit more of the toffee, maybe ever so slightly kind of bordering on kind of molasses, a dark toffee, as well as some little caramel tones and some little lighter toffee tones as well. So it's quite nice. You are getting some nice grains there, but at the front of the mouth it's more malt than grain, and you are getting an okay level of sweetness, which then carries on to the mid-tongue. You start getting a little bit more hop flavours, and I think the initial hop flavours you're getting, they start working with these kind of malty tones, and it does start giving this kind of richness, which, as I'm saying, it's almost like a bouillon or a kind of a Bovril kind of esque, and I think that's what it is because there's a good level of malt there, and it's I'm not going to say fighting with it, but it's holding its own. It's not kind of giving up against the hop flavours, and the two of them are basically kind of developing a kind of slightly different flavour, a slightly kind of more unique flavour, whereas it is giving you, it's like starts off with slightly malty and finishes with slightly kind of hoppiness, and with the grain in between and that, because the grain kind of develops a bit in the mid-tongue as well, and that's what gives you this more kind of complex flavour, and you still have this underlying sweetness, which then ever so slightly kind of rises up at the back of the mid-tongue before it goes over into the back of the mouth and the aftertaste. And just as it starts to kind of get it, you have basically the bitterness start to come across it, and yeah, you get a nice level of bitterness at the back end. But the thing is that the hops aren't giving you floralness, not giving you anything floral. It's obviously giving you some bitterness and things like that, but what it's also doing, it's giving you, it's like slightly supporting the richness of the malt, and that's what it kind of gives you. It's maybe a kind of slightly bouillon kind of, a rich kind of sauce that you probably get maybe with steaks or something like that, like a jus or something like that. I have to be careful how I said that. There'll be no cooking over there in this programme. But yeah, so yeah, it just gives you that kind of slightly richness in body and in flavour, but still has that sessionability because it's not heavy, it's still light, but still has that complex flavours. And overall, I quite like it, and I'm sitting here, now that I've emptied the bottle, wishing it was a bigger bottle, and wishing I had more than one. to be totally honest, because I'm sitting there thinking, I've only got this left and I'm actually enjoying it. Which for me is a sign of a good beer, especially when I'm doing reviews and I'm drinking. I've only got one of them. And then you're sitting there thinking, I could go another one quite easily. Quite enjoy this. And then you don't have one and you're thinking, bugger, I don't want to have anything else. So I'm quite happy just to drink another one of these. And that's, for me, is a sign of a good beer, that you want another one. And you're disappointed if you can't, or you don't have another one to have. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, when we're drinking beer, it's all about actually drinking the beer and enjoying it, regardless of flavour or what you're into, whatever. I mean, whether you're into craft beer or mainstream piss water lagers or whatever and things like that. We all drink it for our own pleasure. And for me, a good beer is a beer that I want to keep drinking. It's a beer that I want to have another one of. And this is what I call my average. If people kind of wondered, well, what do I really class as average? An average beer is an okay beer. A beer where, yes, it's a nice enough beer. Do you want another one? Yeah, I could take another one. But I could also leave it. You know? Anything below that, then, well, you want another one? I'm all right just now. You know, it's normal kind of thing. So anything from 1 to 5 is, you know, for 1 to 4 basically is kind of, well, no, from 1 to kind of 4, yes, I would probably say it's kind of ones where I probably wouldn't take another one after drinking one. From 5 to probably, from 5 to 6.5, I would class that as the kind of slightly average to above average range where, like, yeah, I could take another one, but I could also maybe slightly leave it, you know, that type of thing. So if it's around about 5, it's kind of take it or leave it. Above 5, then yeah, I'll probably take another one. And then you get to the kind of like the 7s, the 8s, 9s and things like that, and they're the ones we're thinking, oh yeah, these are the ones that you kind of miss, you know, you're kind of thinking, you haven't finished this when you're thinking about having another one, you know, because you want to have another one. And you think, well, you know, it might be things that are stopping you because maybe you're driving, or maybe it's too late at night and you've got work in the morning, or sick day. Or maybe you're at a situation where I've only got one, so this is it. And it kind of slightly irks you a bit, you know, that type of thing. Think, oh, I could have went another one. And I would class this into this kind of range, whereas I'm got this much left in the glass and I'm thinking about, I'd have another one, but I don't have one. Bugger. And that's the difference. Now, I've enjoyed some of the beers from the Sam Smith range, from the tasting thing. But strangely enough, the one that I left till last because I thought, I don't know what I'm going to get here. I mean, the plenty of times I went in with pale ale thinking, it's going to be more traditional, and it's not. And it's like, what? Yeah. Whereas this is more traditional, and I thought, well, it could be 50-50. It could be more of the kind of more modern style kind of pale ales, or it could be a more traditional, but you just don't know what you're going to get nowadays. And this is more traditional. And it's turned out this is actually, I would probably say, the one I've enjoyed the most. Go figure. Isn't the beer world strange? So I've enjoyed other ones, but this one just seems to be hit the spot better, just because of that level of bitterness. A nice level of richness, but has that sessionability. And even though it's a pale ale and that, it's not far off being a bitter in some ways because of the richness of it, and nice bit of back end, actually, to be totally honest. Nice bit of bitterness at the back end. Also kind of slight nutty tones and everything else. And there's flavours, which again is kind of just adding to it. And because of that, what would I give it out of 10? Well, there's a question. I actually really quite like this. And yeah, I could have a session on this quite easily, and I'd bloody enjoy it. So on that basis, I'm sitting there thinking, should I give it 7 or 7.5? I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to give it a 7.5 because I was fair with the Shepherd Neame and I gave it 5.5. But with this one, no, this is a different kind of beer, and it was obviously highlighted to me that this was a better beer than the Shepherd Neame. And Sloppy Dave was absolutely right in his comment. It is a far better beer in a lot of different ways. But it's also more up my street. It's not just complex and everything else. It's got the flavours where I want them to be. I mean, I wouldn't want this richness and then didn't have that kind of bitterness at the end. I think it would be lacking if it didn't have things like this. So on that basis, it's an easy 7.5. It really is. And I would probably say for me, it's the most enjoyable one. I'm not saying the other ones were bad in any way, shape or form, and I stand by what I gave them. But for where I am just now, at this time of day and everything else, this beer is just hitting the spot absolutely right on the head. Boom. There you go. It really is hitting the spot. And it's very drinkable, and I'm just very disappointed that I only had a small bottle and I don't have another one. And that's the downside. That's the only downside I'm getting from that. Obviously, again, I've had to take in consideration that you do get a 550 ml bottle is what the normal would come in, but they are slightly more on the price range anyway, as well, unfortunately. But it's still a very, very nice beer, regardless of what they're charging and what size of bottle it comes in. So it's 5%. It's normally a 550 ml bottle, although this is a 355 ml bottle, part of the tasting range. It's an easy 7.5 out of 10, and I certainly would recommend it. And the comments that recommended this beer being a good beer were absolutely spot on. So, thanks for watching. Cheers. And goodbye from Sam Smith. It's the last of the jokes for now. And bye for now.